Hey, hope you're well. I'm starting in on the drawers for the workshop cabinet that I put in recently, and as I mentioned when I made this cabinet, I'm using this whole project as a bit of a test bed using different techniques and different materials. And in this one I'm making the full width drawer at the top of the cabinet here, and I'm going to do that out of birch ply. Now, to get a continuous grain pattern, all 5 drawer fronts or fascias have come from the same sheet of maple faced globulous plywood. Keep your eyes peeled for a video about these birch ply alternatives that'll be coming along soon. And I've already cut all the drawer fronts to size, nibbled away the handhold cutouts with the jigsaw, and then cleaned them up with a router and a template. I'm going to be using 12mm or 1/2 inch birch ply, sometimes called Baltic birch, for the top drawer box. And before we start cutting that, it's always worth checking that the cabinet is the same width all the way through front to back. My drawer front is a couple of millimeters, a 1/16 of an inch or just over, narrower than the opening, so I can use that fascia to quickly check that the cabinet doesn't suddenly get narrower towards the back, as if it would. The drawer size will be the same depth front to back as the base, and after a little bit of careful measuring, I'm pretty sure that I can just about get the drawer sides and base out of this one piece of board. I'm going to rebate the drawer fascia to leave a 6mm overhang that covers the edge of the drawer box. More on that later. So I've measured the cabinet depth and transferred that onto the board, but I used a skinny strip of 6mm scrap MDF against the back edge of the board to reduce the depth by the thickness of the rebate. For a simple drawer box like this, I like to have the base sitting between the sides, so I've lined the fascia up on my workpiece, located the edge with a square, then used a couple of strips of the 12mm birch to mark the actual size that we need, and then I can get that cut. By the way, birch ply can vary in thickness quite significantly, so I found that it's always best to use an offcut of the actual board that you're using rather than just some random bit of scrap you might have had lying around for a while. So that's the drawer base cut, and before we go any further, it's always worth checking that it fits okay and runs nice and smoothly without snagging. I've put the scraps of 12mm in there at the sides, along with the offcut from the board, just to keep it real. That's all looking pretty good, so I can cut the drawer sides from what's left of the board with the track saw, just lining the guide rail up against pencil marks taken off the drawer front. Yeah, I told you it was going to be tight. I still need to cut a back for the drawer box, but though the piece I have left is plenty wide enough, it's a little bit on the short side. I do have another half sheet of the 12mm birch ply, but I'm reluctant to cut into that just to make a drawer back for the workshop. So I'm going to patch in a couple of pieces from an older offcut just to make up the height, held together with glue and dominoes. It would have been nice to use the Triton dowler for this, but I don't actually have any 6mm bits for it, and an 8mm dowel is a little bit too chunky for a 12mm board. With a glue set and a quick sand over to clean things up, I can get the back cut to width, putting the join in the patchwork plywood roughly in the centre, marking it up, and cutting it down at the miter saw. The back needs to be the same height as the sides, less the thickness of the base, and here I'm marking that up using a skinny strip of 12mm birch as the offset, and then cutting the back down to size. So that's the story so far, and this is how the drawer is going to be constructed. We've got the base flat on the deck here. We've got the back that will sit onto that and then be fixed through from underneath. I'm just going to tape this on temporarily for now. And then the sides are just planted on. And that's kind of our drawer box, just about ready to go. Now, if you wanted to make this fancier, you can use hidden fixings, you can use dowels or dominoes through the sides, but for a workshop drawer in birch ply, I'm just going to nail this through because it's simple, it's quick, and it's plenty strong enough. Now, This drawer, all of these drawers, in fact, are inset. That means that they fit into the frame or cabinet with no additional drawer front or fascia. If you were making a drawer like that, then the usual way would be to have a drawer front, same as the back, which fits into place here. And you could then fix that in the same way with pin through the side or with pocket holes. And then you'd have a fascia that covers that whole thing, that overhangs at either side and covers up the carcass as well. With an inset drawer, you can still do it that way, but the edges of the drawer box would be exposed, and even with birch ply like this, it's not a great look. There are ways around that to make it look better, finger joints or box joints, for example, dovetails if you want to get proper fancy. But the way I prefer to do it, the easiest way, to be perfectly honest, is to have a full width fascia that's rebated so that it fits within the drawer box but also covers up those exposed edges. I'm going to put this box together and then while the glue has a chance to go off on that, I'll get the drawer fascia rebated. I'm just using a fast grab PVA glue and 18 gauge nails to hold everything together, fitting the back to the base first. And then fitting the sides. I've marked a 12mm wide rebate on the inside of the drawer front sides and base, and then used a scrap of 6mm plus a 1mm packer to set the depth on the plunge saw. And then I can simply make the cuts around the three sides of the fascia that bear against the box. I'll make the rebates at the router bench, but I'll cut away the bulk of the material here at the MFT with a plunge saw. The saw's already set to depth, and I can use the existing cuts as a guide to where the new ones need to be, which layer of the ply that I'm working to. This will make it an easy single pass at the router bench to get a fantastic finish. I've fitted a rebating bit in the AUK router, and I'm using the offcuts of 12mm birch again to set the height of the cut, and then against the fence to set the depth. And with that done, it's a simple single pass to get a lovely clean rebate, and I'm using a simple sled for the short ends of the fascia to keep everything square to the fence. A quick check that it's a nice and snug fit, and then I can add glue around the rebate and get it fitted into the drawer box. So I'm using a clamp as a spreader just to open the box up a little so the glue doesn't get scraped off as it goes in. And I can add a few pins around the edge just to hold everything together while the glue dries. As of the front edge, I'll use the 23 gauge headless spinner just because I can. And with the glue all set, I can give it a quick rub over with some P180 and a little bit of very careful hand sanding on that maple face veneer. Before we put on a coat of the excellent Keith Brown wax finish. Thanks, Keith, just to polish it off. So there you go, that's a super simple way to make a basic inset drawer, fast and strong. I used a router to finish off the rebates, but as I've shown before in previous videos, you can do that perfectly well with just a track saw if you need to, and for most uses a simple glue joint will be plenty strong enough. I use nails to hold it all together while the glue dried, just because I could. Obviously there's no stop in that to stop the drawer from going all the way back. I'll fit that when I get the cabinet out, because I've got to get the cabinet out to do the next pair of drawers. And this cabinet will have side mounted soft close ball race runners, probably rebated into the sides of the drawer box to get the maximum drawer width, but that's for another video. I'll call this one done for now. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to hear some of my initial thoughts on this globulus maple plywood, this birch ply alternative, be sure to join us over at 10 Minute Workshop Plus is my new members area at 10minuteworkshop.com. More details there, or sign up directly at 10minuteworkshop.plus. But that's all for now. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you again very soon. All right, take care.